You're here, I'm queer, and welcome back to my channel. Mabuhay everyone and maligayang buwan ng Wika. I remember loving this month when I was in school in the Philippines because you get to wear traditional Filipino clothing. And for this video, we will be making Darna! If you know what I mean. I actually started making this doll back in 2022. I forgot what happened and why I stopped making it. I've always just wanted to finish this project because I love Darna. And she was my introduction to superheroes. Darna is created by Mars Ravelos from the Philippines, and let's get it out of the way. She is not a Wonder Woman copycat. She is a Filipino superhero. She's like an original magical girl because she transforms. For my Darna, I do want her to be rooted more into Filipino culture, and I really want to transform her costume and make it look more earthy, a little bit more grounded, and less futuristic. Filipino armor, Filipino weapons, and Filipino like just motifs here and there. Instead of giving her the bikini, I kind of want to give her a bodysuit. I feel like that makes it more armor. For her loincloth, instead of giving her just the traditional one loincloth, I want to give her two. I just thought making a front and back loincloth or bahag would just look better in my opinion. And it would just have more flow. I mean, who doesn't like more flowy things? For her weapon, I want to give her a sword and also a shield. And for her sword, I want it to be the traditional Filipino Kris sword, which is the wavy sword. And for her shield or her kalasag, I want it to be a traditional pre-colonial Filipino shield. And Lapu-Lapu actually has a similar shield, although his is a lot more of the rounded rectangular shape. I also wanted to give her the iconic Filipino sticks or the arnis. I also maybe want to incorporate some traditional Filipino tattoos here and there to pay homage to the most iconic Vogue Philippines cover, which is Apo Wang Od. So I think I have rambled on for way too long, and I think it is time to get started on this doll. And speaking of time, I've got something super exciting to share with you all. I'm thrilled to be partnering with Hextian, a brand that creates stunning one-of-a-kind watches and jewelry. Each piece is crafted from natural materials, making them unique just like us. Hextian offers free express worldwide shipping from Vienna with no custom fees. Plus, they provide a 24-month warranty and a 25-day money-back guarantee. Whether you're looking for something elegant or edgy, Hextian has over 1,000 different products to choose from. Now let me tell you about their incredible watches. Hextian watches are not just timepieces, they are works of art. Each watch is made from sustainable materials like wood and marble, ensuring that every piece is as unique as you are. They have a variety of designs that cater to all styles, from classic to contemporary. I've been loving this watch that I got, which is the Scatty in silver, and it just looks so luxurious and also classic. And because I am just so obsessed with it, I knew that I needed to also get the gold, so I got the Hanwi watch as well. I really love the white mother of pearl dial. It's just so iridescent and I love all of the colors. It's just so breathtaking and I know you'll love them too. Use my discount code HEXTIAN for 10% off the entire website. I'll have them linked down below in the description, or you may also scan the QR code to shop now. Hextian is the perfect blend of nature and style, and I know you'll find something that you love. Happy shopping and stay unique. And once again, thank you to Hextian for sponsoring this video. I start by mixing the resin color for her skin, and this is a mixture of a bunch of things and a bunch of resin. So I've got white resin, beige resin, and a bunch of alcohol dyes in there to really get this perfect kind of tan color. However, in the very end, it, I guess, oxidizes a little bit weird when you cure it, and it becomes a lot lighter, which I did not love. But I was actually running out of the beige resin, which was the main base color that I used for her. So I think I'm just going to try and fix this with pastels, maybe contouring and blushing and all of that, to hopefully bring her back the golden tan. It definitely took so long to try and print one full doll. I tried to print multiple, pieces, multiple parts and everything, but it just kept failing and failing. And even though some of them looked perfect, when you actually inspect them up close, they are like damaged. I know that that would bother me, and I knew that I had to keep going and keep printing. It's been quite stressful, I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to print multiple pieces per body. For the most part, I think I have maybe 1.5 doll. I knew that I wanted her to have more muscle definition. I wanted her to have more curves, a little bit more of a thickness onto her. And so I have asked Gothiquezombie to, you know, give her some muscles. And for her face, I actually modified it a little bit and I gave her a stronger brow bone. I also changed up her nose and made it a little bit wider. For the most part, I try not to do so much changes because the face already is beautiful. I think overall, I still need to do some traditional modification on her torso though. The costume that I originally commissioned, I definitely need to exaggerate the hip area to fill in the costume. So I think I'm gonna be doing that with our epoxy sculpt over here. I really love this type of silhouette. It is giving very Mugler vibes, and overall it's just such a strong like silhouette and figure, and I love it on me. When I wear my corset, it actually has the hip area to emphasize that a lot better and really exaggerate it, and sometimes I even stuff it with like socks underneath to really bump it up, you know? So I think this will just overall look better for Darna. It's very rough. She's very rough. I kind of drew on her face a little bit just so that she has an expression. Ah, I am obsessed. I'm so obsessed. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. There's a lot of nuances with the posing, and I feel like that's where ball jointed dolls really excel. You can't do this to a made to move Barbie. All these like tilts just adds to how dynamic the pose is. For her bodysuit, I will be using the original piece that Heather of Dolluxedesigns made for me back in 2022. And as you can see, this is it's giving fashion, it's giving Mugler, and that is definitely what I wanted. So I do want to add some texture to it, and this is a technique that either you love or you hate, but I personally love adding texture with hot glue gun because they retain the flexibility, they dry quickly, and you can make them as thick as you want them, as thin as you want them, and overall I just want this bodysuit to look less futuristic and more organic, more earthy, and just more like antique and vintage. Now I'm just adding some metallic, quote-unquote metallic pieces using Warbler, and this just adds a lot more interest to her armor or her bodysuit, and I really love it. I'm taking this star that I found from like a craft pack, and again I am adding texture to it. I didn't want the star to be very smooth. I wanted it to look aged and look more ornate. I also made a mold out of it so I can make 2 stars of the same texture using epoxy sculpt, and this way it can be flexible until it cures over time, so I can lay it flat onto her chest so that, you know, it is blended onto the costume. Now I'm just taking my Angelus leather paint, and we are covering every single thing with red. You know, you want to cover our tracks with the hot glue, and we just want to have a clean canvas to work with. Of course, we got to paint her stars gold and also the accents to her armor, and I thought this was just so beautiful, and I personally love the combination of red and also gold. I don't know why. And now it's time to dry brush her entire costume. Honestly, this whole doll is probably going to be dry brushed, but this is a good method to just add more texture using paint and age up a costume, and I really love it. I went over it with a little bit of gold in the end as well, just to kind of unite the gold and the red. For her accessories, I am making a mold of this gem I found. I forgot where, but it is the perfect size, but not the perfect color. And I will be casting it in yellow UV resin. This one was an example I wanted to try in clear resin, and it turned out pretty beautiful. So I was pretty confident that this would work. So I made a bunch of them, and for the back of them, I am just covering them with UV resin mixed with gold mica powders. Because the mold that I use is not transparent, it's a little bit difficult for the UV to actually penetrate the resin, but initially I wanted to add the mica powders inside the actual resin, and I thought that would look more magical, but this method works too. Typically, her entire belt is covered with the gems, but it didn't really fit on the sides of her. So I was like, let's just make 5 gems in the front and cover the sides with these ornate jewelry flowers. And I thought it kind of gave pre-colonial Filipino jewelry as well, so I embraced it and I love it. Trying to find a really flowy fabric in doll scale was so difficult, but I settled on this off-white chiffon fabric. And of course, because this doll is still made by me, it still needs to serve some glam and drag. So I made her knee-high boot covers over here, and this is what I do for most of my fabric boots. I put the boots on first, and then I put the shoe on, the shoe base that you want to use, and then we just glue the excess fabric onto the base of the shoes. And yes, this is me fake gluing it, but this is the same exact method that I do off camera. It's just so much harder to perfect it for the camera. After the glue dries, you can then cut off the excess fabric. And of course, to match her overall armor, we are adding some accent pieces for her boots as well. And same goes for the texture of it all. Looking at it now, I do wish that I did something different with her boot design, but I mean, it still works, it still matches. I just wish that there was a little bit something different. However, I didn't want to pull from actual armor pieces because that's not really innate to pre-colonial Philippines. I also thought of maybe making it into like a sandal boot or maybe fabric boots, like wrapped up fabric, but also that design overall might take away from the overall vibe of the doll. So I thought, you know what, let's just stick with a fashion boot, technically, so it doesn't steal the focus from her overall costume and look. And yes, this is me covering the red bottoms that I initially painted because I was like, you know what, she is already wearing red boots, and red with red bottoms is a little bit too excessive, so let's tone it down for Miss Darna. For her iconic helmet, I will be using Worbla to sculpt it and use it as the base. And Worbla is really fun to work with, although it is very, very intimidating. But you just want to make sure that your Worbla is always hot when you are working with it, because you can actually kind of sculpt it and blend it. And after the Worbla cools down, it will be very, very solid and will have minimal flexibility. So then we can go ahead and add some details with our epoxy sculpt. I have no idea why I used epoxy sculpt for the edges of this helmet when I could have used another layer of Worbla, but yeah, I have no idea what I was thinking. I thought maybe this was easier, maybe this was better, but it's not. So if you guys are gonna try and recreate this, just layer another Worbla border onto this helmet. And here we go again with the texturing of it all. I have to. I go excessive with this. For her helmet wings, this is the perfect example of Worbla layering. As you can see, I made 4 pieces that I will be putting on top of each other to create that beautiful ornate wing design, and I am just really, really loving it. I am so pleased with how this helmet turned out. Back in 2022, I had no idea what I was going to do with the helmet. I had no idea how I was going to make the wings, and I was able to really pull it off, and I'm just so happy. I'm not a big fan of cutting multiple layers of Worbla, just because when you cut the same shape twice in Worbla, it's never going to be the same exact size. It's never going to be the same exact copy. So I personally hate that. But then again, maybe it's my cutting technique and they're just not perfect and they're just not accurate and they're not the same size. But it's totally fine because I am in love with how this helmet turned out. For her hair, initially I wanted to actually reroot her, but now that we've turned this project into a resin BJD, that may not be, well, it's not a possibility. So I was thinking of just gluing hair onto the perimeter of her helmet. I did want to highlight a Filipino business, which is Dollyhair.com over here, and they actually sent me 38-inch black nylon hair, and it is just so freaking beautiful. And look how shiny that is. And it's so silky, but unfortunately I cannot use it for this project. Thank you to Dollyhair.com for sending me these hair and other hairs, actually. I really appreciate it. I think the yarn will just give us the volume in the back that we need. but not the volume in terms of the wefting. It literally is less dense than regular hair, but the appearance of it is really, really thick, which I think will be perfect for Darna. I think it's time to work on her weapons and also her shield. I will be making a kris sword. Well, technically we're modifying one. A shield, a kalasag, and then we will give her the arnis. To get the perfect base size that I wanted for her, I just kind of sketched it out onto paper and I traced that onto Warbla. And of course, to add some decoration and some texture, we are using our hot glue and I'm just giving it some border. I want the shield to kind of be wooden vibes. Well, honestly, I'm fine with it looking metallic as well. It's just that most of the Filipino shields are made out of wood. So I think I'm just going to embrace the wood look for the back and hope that we get something really ornate looking. And of course, I'm doing the same exact thing with the iconic Filipino sun from the flag. And I just know I wanted to make it ornate, and the 8 rays actually symbolizes the 8 original provinces that fought and rebelled against the Spanish colonizers during the Philippine Revolution in 1896. I really love this combination of shields. Honestly, we can even make the sun itself the shield, which was one of my original ideas. But when I searched Filipino shields and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, the rectangle spiky shield is a lot more interesting and a lot more like Filipino rooted. So I was really, really in love with it. But I was like, I also still need to incorporate the sun in there in some way. So let's combine the 2 elements together. Why not? There's just something about dry brushing and making like gold things, like aged looking, that does it for me. I'm not sure why, but I just love it. And I guess this is where the wood part kind of comes in, and I was trying to make sure that the back of this kind of have that wooden element, wooden design and everything. So I'm just using that with paint. As you can see, I'm trying to replicate some wood graining, and try to make it look more organic and more earthy as much as possible. Now let's work on her gauntlets or her bracelets, whatever you want to call it. Of course, the main purpose for this is to deflect bullets, and I think that's why there's a lot of Wonder Woman comparison. But then again, they've given Wonder Woman a sword and a shield with most of her recent versions, which I love and adore. So it's probably the main reason why I got really inspired to take a warrior aspect to Darna instead of the intergalactic superhero that she is mostly known for. Because I'm like, I want her to be more Filipino and less alien, I guess. I just feel like it's sometimes hard to recognize Darna as a Filipino superhero because of her character design, because she is very, very spacey, futuristic, galactic, and all of that. Like, nothing in her design, I guess besides her bahag, really screams Filipino, at least to me. So that's why I wanted to bring in these Filipino elements to my doll. The sword that I'll be modifying is between these 2 that belongs to Raya, of course. One of them is from the Disney store, one of them is from, I believe, Hasbro or Mattel, and that is a smaller one. I really love the Disney version just because it's more detailed, but I don't love the size because it's too big for the doll. It's giving great sword. So over here, I'm just making it a little bit shorter. I just glued it together, I cut them up, and I kind of snapped one of them in half, which was my fault, so yeah, it works out though. To highlight another Filipino business, I ordered this earring from Sunkissed Pinay, and I just thought it was perfect as a motif for the sword, so I am making a mold out of it, and we are casting it again with resin. This time it's just going to be clear. It doesn't really matter because we're painting over it. I actually bought this in 2022 as well because I planned on using this as a motif for my Darna Doll somewhere in her overall design, and I thought it would look so perfect on the sword. The kris sword is widely used in Sulu and Mindanao in the Philippines, and the wavy sword can actually represent a flame or a serpent, and I thought that was just so cool. And this type of sword can also be found in other Southeast Asian countries. Now let's make her arnis or her eskrima or kali sticks, and this one I am just using one long wooden dowels that I'm cutting in two, and I am just decorating it with our hot glue. Typically these are made out of rattan sticks and they can be quite heavy, but they are mostly very smooth, and in terms of design they are probably just stained or painted very ornately, but I wanted to give texture to this one so that it can match Darna's overall armory and weaponry. I actually wanted to learn this when I was a kid just because I thought the poses, the movement, and the overall martial art of it all was just so cool and fast-paced. I remember watching Tomb Raider Cradle of Life, and when she broke her staff into two, she was using arnis poses and martial arts, which they confirmed in the behind the scenes of it all, so I thought that was so cool. Now it's time to sand the doll. I realized that there is something I hate more than sewing, and that is 3D printing. 3D printing this doll took me like a week. Okay, maybe like 5 days. But still, that's long. Every single time you print, it's like 5 to 7 hours. Maybe it's my fault for trying to like get it done, like trying to get a complete doll all at once, because I mean, it fits the printer. So I'm like, okay, then why not push it to the limit? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna print out multiple dolls and I'm just gonna have them displayed here. But that's not gonna happen anytime soon because printing one is like, it's taking a toll out of my life. It's the same way with sewing. Now let's put this doll together. Finally, her costume is done, so no harm can come to the doll's body. We have unlocked 2 more hand poses made by Gothiquezombie himself, and that is the fist hand and also the holding something hand. And I thought these 2 specific hand poses were very vital for Darna. I am so excited for this doll. She is coming to life slowly but surely, but I am so in love with her body and her muscle definition. And I love that I was able to incorporate the baybayin Darna in the back of her head. It just makes it more personal. I really want to incorporate some tattoos on her arms, so I've been kind of researching a lot of Filipino tattoos here and there, and I was also researching Buwan's tattoo designs that they have. From the get-go, I shouldn't have been using green to sketch out her tattoos. Initially, my idea was to kind of make the tattoos look a little bit faded, and I was convincing myself that some black tattoos fade into green and some fade into blue, but I don't know, I guess this day I chose green as a tattoo base, you know, because I thought that was a good idea. Specifically, this like yellow-green color. So, bad idea, don't do it. If anything, try like a dark blue, or just go for the basics and do like a brown, and so that it's a little bit more inconspicuous. Like I said, for the most part, my references was Buwan's tattoos overall, and also kind of like the pre-made designs that they have when you go get tattooed. So I thought those symbolisms worked really well for Darna, so I was trying to incorporate as much as possible that made sense. After mapping out and sketching her tattoos with the wrong color, I will now spray everything with Mr. Super Clear, and I will also paint her underwear red, because when I actually put the costume on her, a lot of her skin was actually showing in the back, so I thought instead of skin matching it, I'll just paint like an underwear on her, and I feel like that would look much better. I wanted to, of course, incorporate as much sun elements as much as possible, so for her shoulders, this is actually a sun, which is really cool because it kind of looks like the Filipino flag sun as well. I wanted to incorporate as much baybayin as I can, so over here it's literally just her name, Darna, in baybayin. Once again, I just wanted to incorporate as much baybayin as I can into this doll's design. That was my initial plan, and it was going to be all over her costume, but I thought, you know what, let's just use it for the tattoos. The baybayin underneath by her forearm actually says bato, which represents the stone that she swallows to transform. Again, she's like a magical girl, you know. The back of her arm actually represents Python, which I thought was kind of funny. I initially loved the design before I even knew what it meant, but it's perfect for Darna because of Valentina, her main enemy, which is kind of like a snake Medusa type of character. We're continuing the snake theme in the back, and these represent snake tongues. Again, perfect for Darna and Valentina. I thought, why not? I didn't feel like giving her a full sleeve on her left arm because it was going to be covered mostly with her shield. And also, I do like the asymmetrical look of it all. I feel like this actually makes it look more balanced in a way, and it is more interesting, at least to me. Now let's go ahead and body blush and contour her chest and also her arms. And this will just bring out the details of the sculpt, the muscles, and all of that. I just want to bring in more warmth to her color, and more sun, and just overall more life to it. And yes, me not contouring and body blushing her legs are intentional. I really wanted to keep the doll's natural shine onto her legs just because I feel like it looks oiled up, it looks really shiny and glowy, and I didn't want to rely on the highlighting powders that I often use because that's not the type of shine that these legs are going to give. So I just kept the body blushing and contouring for her chest and also her arms. And now it's time for her visage. So as usual, I sprayed her face with Mr. Super Clear first to prime it, so we have kind of like a paper-like texture to draw on, and I'm just using my watercolor pencils to map out her face and the features that I want her to have. I really want her expression to be kind of mad and really fierce looking. I want her to look really serious and just kind of like angry and ready for battle, but of course give it my own flair. I wanted to keep her overall face and makeup to be neutral. Oh my god, here we go again with my neutrals, but I mean, this is my neutral, which I guess is like crazy makeup for a lot of people, but to me, neutral is using natural colors. I do get carried away with the smokiness of it all, but I do want her to still look glamorous, fierce, and of course serve charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. To the people who grew up watching Darna, who has been your favorite live-action celebrity to portray Darna? There has been so many, from movies to TV shows. My top 3 would definitely be Angel Locsin, Marian Rivera, and also Jane De Leon. That's literally in chronological order as well, because to me, Angel Locsin was the best Darna in terms of her personality and how she portrayed the role. She was just so like brave and fierce. But overall, I think costuming, I would give it to the third and latest one, which is Jane De Leon's version. I think their costuming and special effects is a lot better. But also shout out to the character designers for Angel Locsin's version, because the villains in Angel's Darna was just so top tier. I mean, that Valentina alone, oh my gosh, I think about it all the time. So let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite, and you can even go with the movies and all of that, like the vintage Darnas and everything. I'd love to see who the fan favorite is. She looks absolutely amazing and incredible and just so fierce looking and just like a warrior, you know, like a true Filipino warrior. The modification that I did for this head was very paramount to like her overall beauty. I really think the stronger features really helps with achieving this overall look. Specifically, I think the brow bone and also her nose. I think those are so beautiful. So I encountered a little bit of a problem with trying on her helmet, and because of the added hair in the back, even though we used yarn and we thought that it was going to be less dense, it actually ended up not fitting her head because of the head cap. So unfortunately, I think this helmet would only fit without the head cap, which honestly, it doesn't bother me as much. I feel like it's alright. There are dolls that are like this. I didn't think that the weft of the yarn would be this bulky for the helmet not to fit. So that one's a little bit disappointing, but she still looks so good regardless. Now let's give her hair a little bit of texture, and I'm just using my heated metal chopstick to give it some curls, and then I will be brushing it out a lot later on. I think it's time to prepare for battle, so let's go ahead and assemble Miss Darna. I feel like assembling the doll in the very end, after working on every single piece, one by one, really brings such joy to my heart. It's just so cool and satisfying to see the doll come to life and be built. It's kind of like a puzzle, you know, you're just trying to assemble it and put the pieces together. I am super happy with how she turned out. She is everything that I dreamed for in a Darna doll, and I'm just so glad that I was able to get my vision come to life. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the process, and I hope you guys learned about another amazing superhero today. So thank you guys so much. Maraming salamat, and enjoy the cinematic ending.